So this presentation deal with regulation in Europe, and at the end we will see some national regulation, but only to see where, in what country there are some regulatory text, and also comparison between European Union regulation and USA regulation. So the objective of the regulation in Europe, but also in a lot of countries, is to ensure the health of consumer. But in Europe, one of the main objectives is to remove technical barrier to trade. But this work is very long. So at the moment, there are two levels of regulation. The first one is the harmonized part. Though there is a framework regulation, that is the regulation 1936-2004 that give the general provision of the regulation, and some texts that are about category of material described in a specific directive and regulation. But as I said just before, there are some national regulations that are in place at the moment. So you see some flags, also the flags of United Kingdom at the moment, but this regulation is the same for the transposition of European regulation in all the member states, but there are some national provision where for some category material where the regulation is not in place in Europe. So this regulation at national level are not the same. So it's a problem for harmonization. So there is another text, which is a general text in Europe about mutual recognition. An operator can sell all his product if he's in compliance with his own regulation. He can sell the product in all the other part of Europe, of member states. So operators are not obliged to respect all the national regulation. So the framework regulation describes how it works in Europe. So European Commission is the authority that authorizes the substance, make the relationship between the member states, and control the activity of EFSA, which is the French, the European agency. Some article of the framework regulation describe the work of EFSA. So EFSA is the European agency who instructs the dossier that are used to ask for a new authorization of substance. So operator has to give some information to EFSA, and EFSA make the risk assessment after. So EFSA publish this opinion on his website, and everybody can read this opinion on the website, and give the result of his risk assessment to the Commission, and the Commission will authorize the substance or not if the opinion is not positive. And there is another institution, which is the network of laboratory that give help to the Commission for the control of the market, especially for the test methods, or to make some study about the product on the market. And this network is driven by a European laboratory that is located in Italy, in ISPRA. It's the Joint Research Center. And a part of the laboratory is done in Belgium too, in Gil in Flemish. So the group of materials that are regulated at the European level are this material, so plastic material, also recycling processes of plastic, epoxy derivatives, that is a very restricted part of varnish, teeth and pacifier made of elastomer, so it's a special regulation for some products, ceramics, regenerated cellulose film, and also active and intelligent material and packaging. To get an authorization, there is a process, and the petitioner who want to put on market a new substance that will be used to manufacture a material has to fill a dossier and to give this dossier to the national authority that will transfer this dossier to the European authority if it's at an harmonized regulation. And then EFSA will make the risk assessment and publish an opinion. And after, the Commission will authorize the substance. In the regulation, substances that are not authorized must have a risk assessment. So every substance with no risk assessment are not authorized at the moment. These are the criteria used to detail the food contact material about their characteristics. So it's the disposal used in the specific regulation or specific directive. So this text could have a list of substance authorized. For this substance, there are purity criteria, condition of use of substance, specific migration limit. These specific migration limits are determined by EFSA. EFSA give a toxicological value, and the authority will calculate a specific migration limit. Overall migration limit, I will explain after for plastic what is overall migration limit, and provision for oral contact. At the moment, only pacifier and teeth have specification about provision for oral contact. There are rules for labeling also, so it depends who buy the product. If it's a consumer, everybody in the room, the labeling could be on the articles or on the packaging of article, or sometimes, but with some restriction, it could be in the place where the product is sold, but if it's clearly visible by the purchaser. If it's an operator, so a professional, the most common labeling is on the document that accompanying the deliveries. Sorry. On the packaging of the article, it's possible also, or on the article, it's rare. Declaration of compliance is one of the disposal for every operator on the market. They have to give a written declaration of compliance to his client, and this written declaration of compliance has to be established with supporting documentation, which are the evidences that the material is compliant with the regulation. And the framework regulation say that every operator has to keep this documentation to give it to the authority if necessary, to prove that the article is compliant. Traceability is another requirement of the regulation. So the objectives of traceability is important for the control of the market, for the authority, to identify if there is a non-compliant product on the market, to identify the lot, the batch, or to identify the responsibility of the operator on the market. So it could be not only the manufacturer of the final product, it could be somebody else that make raw material or a company who make the substance sometimes. So this article is about the exchange between all the supply chains to identify what are the responsibilities and to correct the product if there is an anomaly. So what are to be identified is market operators, people that put on the market the product itself, and the substances. And the means are labeling and documentation. Good manufacturing practice is also a requirement. So it concerns a lot of part of a quality system. Staff competence, premise and equipment, raw materials, manufacturing operation, corrective measure, documentation, and audit. So it can be, the answer could be a management hygiene system or a management quality system, like ISO 22000 or 91000. But it's not the only system possible. It could be a private system like IFS or BRC, for example. Specific measure for plastic. Now we enter in the specific rules for each category of material. So previously it was only general requirement. For plastic, there is a regulation that is a 10/2011. First, what are the substances and material covered by the regulation? First, there are some definitions in the regulation for substances. So on the slide, you will see exactly the definition of the regulation. The first one is the starting substance and monomer that are described as substance undergoing any type of polymerization process to manufacture polymer, etc. So these substances are substances used to manufacture the polymer itself, and some other substances are used and are separate on the definition because they are not the same role on the process. It's polymerization aids that are substances that are used that are necessary to manufacture the polymer, but they are not in the final product itself. So there is a definition for polymer, any macromolecular substances, etc. So there are a lot of polymerization process or the kind of manufacture process to manufacture a polymer. The following is the manufacture of the plastic itself. So we use polymer and polymer production and additives. So there is a difference between polymer production aids and additive. Polymer production aids are substances which are necessary to to manufacture the plastic, but are not in the final product itself also. But additive are substances which are intentionally added to the material. So intentionally is the important word. At the end, plastic material are defined as polymer to which additive and other substances may have been added. When we see this definition, we are not sure that rubbers, silicone are not included in this regulation, but they are excluded in the regulation because this definition is not clearly sufficiently clear to exclude polymer like rubbers or silicone. This is the composition of plastic according to regulation. And there are some substances which are in the list, authorized substance. So you see monomer starting substance and additive, and some production polymer heads are listed. Also substance in nanometric form. But there are some substances that are permitted but not in the list. So the group of substances permitted has some derogation. You see the list here. And some are permitted even there are no derogation. And this substance could be authorized by a member states, national level, or could be assessed by the operator itself. So it depends on the category of substance, but it's permitted to use some substances that are not in the list of the regulation. Some rules about substances that on Article 8 and Article 19, substance must have a quality, technical quality and purity suitable for the manufacturing of substance. And the composition of the material shall be known by the operator, sometime in the supply chain. It's not the last one. It could be some operator above in the supply chain, but not only the final one. And all the substance must get a risk assessment. And the substances which are not of plastic, but that are used to manufacture coating, adhesive, or print, ink. If there are SML, specific migration limit, that must be compliant with the SML that are previously given for plastic. This is the list, an example, an extract of the list of substance. So a lot of 4 columns are about the identity of the substance. You see that there are also columns to identify if the substance is authorized for as a monomer or starting substance or as additive or PPA. And the rest of the column, you'll see the restriction. So SML, SML-T, which is an SML of a group, and FRF, which is a reduction factor used to correct the result of migration with fatty simulant. And some substance with SML-T, you don't see the identity of the substance of the group, but you see a number that you will find in the end of the table, at the end of the directive. The signification, it depends on the first column, the number of the first column give the name of the substance which are in the group. So another definition of regulation is what are the different kind of migration. There are overall migration limit for plastic. Alors, what are overall migration limit? Overall migration limit are migration of non-volatile substances. So it's often the case for additives. And some other substances have specific migration limit because EFSA give a value for the toxicology threshold that is below the overall migration limit. So there are a specific migration limit for those substances. So it could be additives or monomer. So it is a special value for these substances. Limit of migration are given in some articles. So for overall migration limit is 10 milligram per decimeter square for food for adults, but infant and young children feeding has a special migration limit, which is expressed in milligram per kilo. It's 60 milligram per kilo because it depends on the conventional ratio surface volume of 6 decimeters square for 1 kilo of food, sorry. So other kind of migration limit concern the SML for substances with a specific value of migration, and dual-use additives, which are additives used in food, which are authorized for food material also. And one of the provision of the regulation is to respect the food legislation also. So if this additive migrate in a big quantity, it could give the food non-compliance with the European regulation also. This is the table about the liquid used for a migration analysis. For some tests, we can use the food itself, but it's more complicated. So it's often the case to use simulants. So these simulants depend of the kind of material. So you have a lot of ethanol that are 10% is for food containing water. Acetic acid, 3% for food which are acidic below 4.5. 20% ethanol for alcohol like wine, or some alcohol and up to 20%, and some other kind of food. Sometimes it's not only alcoholic foods. 50% ethanol is for some food with a lot of alcohol inside, but also for example, what we name juice, for example, fruit juice. We use 50% ethanol. Vegetable oil are used for fatty food product, and MPPO, which is a polymer, is used for dry foods, for specific migration tests in general. This is the condition of the test in a table and extract. So you see, for example, for high temperature application for all food simulant at 100 degrees, we use 1 hour at 100 degrees. So these conditions are used for overall migration test. There are 7 standard conditions and 2 special conditions for very specific cases. For specific migration test, we have 2 tables, one to choose the contact time and one to choose the contact temperature. This is an example about, we can use 2 steps in the test, not only one as overall migration test, to modeling the use of the food. For example, if there is a sterilization and after storage of the food, it could be with 2 steps. This is a special equation used to calculate an accelerated condition for specific migration test. So it used the Arrhenius law. So you see an example. For example, 6 months at 23 degrees. If you use 60 degrees of temperature, it will last 5 days. So it's a means to accelerate the test. Instead of waiting 6 months, you have the result in 5 days. So this equation is on the regulation. And how we express the result of migration. So for specific migration result, the general rule is to use the real surface of material / volume of food to calculate the migration result. But to make it easy for a lot of operators, we can use the conventional ratio, which is 6 decimeter square for 1 kilo of food, which is a cube of 1 decimeter cube. Je ne sais plus comment on dit en anglais. Sorry. These are accepted by the regulation to use this ratio for this kind of article. There is an exception also for caps. closure and gasket when the operator doesn't know the application. So he could sell the product and give the result in migrant per article, and the user will calculate the result to see if it's compliant or not. And for overall migration result, as the general rules is to express the result in migrant per decimeter square, the ratio surface of material / volume is not important. It's not so it doesn't interfere in the calculation. But there is an exception. It's for infant foods. So we have to use the real ratio for this kind of product, for the packaging or other material, and a derogation for caps, closure, and gasket, because it could be very severe to apply to give the result in milligram per decimeter square, because the surface is very limited compared to the volume. And if you express the result in milligram per decimeter square for a gasket, for example, it could be non-compliant, and there is no risk, in fact, because the migration will be diluted in a big volume, for example. So there is some derogation for this kind of product. This is the food reduction factor applicable to all result except this point. It's applicable for lipophilic substances that are identified in the table of substance. And the reason why there is this food reduction factor is because when we made the risk assessment, we consider that the consumer eat 1 kilo of food each day, but for fatty product, it's not the case, and it's about, in the worst case, 200 grams each day. So we correct the result to be more realistic. And as there are another food reduction factor in the column of D simulant, which is the vegetable oils, for specific migration result, we have to use 2 food reduction factors. So we multiply the 2 reduction factors, and if the value is below 5, we use it. We use the calculated value. If it's above 5, we use 5. So, and after we compare the value obtained to see if it's compliant or non-compliant. And for overall migration test, we use only one factor, the DRF factor, which is on the table of simulant. What are the tests used to determine the compliance? The references is to analyze the substance for specific migration limit. It's to analyze the substance in the simulant or in a food, but we can use other kind of methods. So one is to use the migration result, but it's not very easy to use it because there is a lot of conditions to be respected, and it's often the case that these conditions are not respected. So we can calculate the migration using the quantity of substance inside the material to consider that all the substance will migrate in the food. And if the result is below the limit, it's compliant in every cases. But sometimes it's not the case, so we can use the modeling also. So with the data that is collected with the manufacturer, and if data about the transfer are known, and we use a model that will surestimate the migration. If it's not the case, it's not compliant with the regulation. So this method are only screening method. So only to determine the compliance. If it's above the limit, we can't use this method. We have to use the reference method. So what are the evidences to be transferred to the supply chain? So the first step is the manufacturer of the substance that have to give all this data. The second step is the manufacture of the material. So we'll complete the data with his own data. So if it's a manufacturer of resin, for example, he will give all the substances that have SML in the composition of the material, for example. And the declaration of compliance of a finished article, the manufacturer will complete the declaration with the migration data, because the migration data are applied on the finished product, not on the raw material. And all the stakeholders have to keep documentation as an evidence to prove that they're compliant with the regulation. So other text, this was all the provision of the plastic regulation. Now there is another text about plastic, which is a text about recycling processes. So this the scope of this regulation doesn't cover recycling material on a site and closed loop. So material that are take by the manufacturer to remanufacture some product, but which are not going outside of the plant, could be used without respecting this regulation. All the process use chemical depolymerization are not covered, and all the substances used behind a functional barrier are not covered also. So functional barrier is defined in the regulation plastic material. These are the requirements for recycling plastic. So traceability raw material from material which were originally intended for food contact. So this is difficulties for a lot of operators, because they will collect some product that were not intended for food contact material. So they are not in their composition compliant with the plastic regulation of Europe. So this is a discussion at the moment in Europe to define a tolerance. Decontamination of unwanted substances for raw material and process. So the EFSA will make a risk assessment on a dossier. We describe the process, and we describe a challenge test to see if the process is sufficient to remove all the contaminants. Manufacturing according the good practices as other plastic material. Addition of authorized substance, so complying with the plastic material regulation, and the recycling material at the end must comply with the food contact regulation for plastic. These are the contaminants that have to be examined by the producer. So some are coming from the raw material collected. Some come from misuse of the consumer, because sometimes you use a bottle to put a bottle of water, and you put something which is not a food, and after you put in your garbage. So this bottle is contaminated with non-food product. Substance used in the recycling process, because we have to use some solvent, some cleaning product to remove the contaminant, and polymer degradation product and additive, because we heat the plastic, we made soft treatment so it could produce new neoform substances. So the dossier must be given to EFSA, which will make the risk assessment, and the control will be made by member state, authority of member state. At the moment, we are not at the step, because the Commission is discussing about the tolerance, about the collecting raw material to see how many material coming from non-food contact material will be accepted. And the end of this is the dossier required by EFSA, so you see all the data. And the next step, which is not in place at the moment, is to register the process at a European level. So all the process will be listed, accepted processes, and labeling according to ISO standard. And all the operators have to give a written declaration of compliance to their clients. This is the content of the register, but at the moment it doesn't exist. I think it will exist in a few months, we hope. Now, some other harmonized requirement of Europe about varnish. So only about epoxy varnish, and it's epoxy derivatives. So it's about batch, which is a well-known monomer used to produce epoxy varnish. And batch can react with food to produce derivatives. So you see the kind of derivative you will find in the food. So Europe put in place a regulation only about the monomer and the derivative of the monomer. So there are specific immigration limits for batch and hydrolysates, and batch chlorinated derivative also. And this requirement doesn't apply to equipment of food industry, depending of their characteristic also. Some other requirement about regenerated cellulose film. Well, it concerns not some kind of this material. So for example, the skin of a sausage is not concerned, for example. But if it's a film, a packaging film, it's concerned. Varnish or with a coating of plastic, for example. These are the requirements. Well, I accelerate a little because I think I will be late. You confirm. Specific migration for ceramics, so it's very easy. The requirements are very simple. It's only about lead and cadmium, but it's at the moment these limits are discussed about European level to give new limits which are lower. Very lower, but it's not. It started 5 years ago, but it's not finished at the moment. There is a method on the appendix of the directive. Some requirement about active and intelligent material. So active material are material who liberate some substance or absorb some substance of the food. So they increase the storage of the food, or they increase their physical aspect. And intelligent material are material who give data about the condition of the packaged food and or of the environment of the food. So there are some requirements because they have an impact, a direct impact on the food, for active, for example. So the substances which are released from the food are not used in the food in the overall migration calculation. So they are removed from the calculation. There must be label if there is a risk that consumer will misuse this kind of packaging and eat. For example, there are sometimes absorber which are in a little bags, and some consumer can think that these bags contain food. So some labeling will alert the consumer that it's not edible, and etc. Alors, national measure, I will go very fast, only to see that there are some countries with national regulation. So for this was for paper and board, for woods and cork, for metal, for glass, for rubber, for silicone, coating, ink. Now, just to finish, if I have time, 2 minutes, okay. So, a comparison between USA and Europe. So USA, it's FDA that drive the regulation. So FDA, it's the authority, but there are some department of the FDA who make risk assessment, which is the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, and one department who made the risk asset management, sorry, and risk assessment is made by OFAS, Office of Food Additive Safety. So in Europe, the equivalent is the Commission here, so the Direction for Health and Food Safety. Here is the Directorate General for Health and Food Safety, which is the authority who made the risk management, and EFSA is the equivalent of OFAS in Europe. The history of the regulation, which is older in the USA, which began before the war, the Second War, and you'll see all the evolution. So in Europe, it begins later, and the framework regulation now is it come from 2004. The principle of the regulation are quite the same. It's not written in the same way, but it's quite the same principles. The main difference is in the FDA regulation. The component of a material are known as indirect food additives. So it's additives that are found in the food, but they are indirect because they are coming from the material. And they are allowed if they are not impact on the health of consumer. In Europe, we see what are the regulations previously. So what are the rules applicable to risk management? So what are the regulations of USA? The component must be approved, but in the FDA regulation, there are not only one way to approve a substance. There are one way is to make a FAP, a food additive petition, which is quite the same system in Europe. But it could be done also by a food contact notification, which is a system which does not exist in Europe, because it's an operator who asks to EFSA with a dossier which is not so detailed than the first one, to use a substance for a specific application, not for all the case. And in this case, the process is quicker. And some exemptions are possible. So prior sanctions, which are old regulation given by FDA in the past. So if it's given in the past, it could be accepted. Or generally recognized as safe, which is a special requirement of FDA, which doesn't exist in Europe, which is substances which are authorized by FDA as general recognized as safe, or by a group of experts, not from FDA also. So there are some physico-chemical properties that must be controlled also. In Europe, you see the requirement previously. The risk assessment is made quite in the same manner if it's a food additive petition. But you see, it's a food additive petition, not food monomer petition, because in FDA, there are no risk assessment for monomers, only for additives. And there is some factor that will use to calculate the exposure of consumer, which is the consumption factor and distribution factor, that give an idea of the use of the material and the use of the material in contact with food also. To determine the regulatory compliance, we can use the special requirement of the FDR, but it covers only polymer, paper, adhesive, and coating. You don't see metal, you don't see ceramics, etc. So it could be a corning grass, and one grass, because grass are substances, but one grass is glass, for example, which is a material also. So analysis must be performed in the finished product, as in Europe. Other provisions are documentation, traceability, good manufacturing practice, and market control made by the Federal Agency of the FDR in France's national member state authority. And this is an example of an article, a bottle of milk made of HDPE. And you see the difference of requirements used by FDR of Europe. Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay.